I first noticed something off about Mr. Harlan 2 weeks ago. He lived alone in the small yellow house across the street. The one with the dying oak tree and the porch light that never went out. For 5 years, he'd been a quiet, polite presence in the neighborhood. The kind of man who waved when you brought in groceries, but never said much else. Until recently. Now, he doesn't wave. Truth, he just stares. The first time it happened, it was 2 a.m. I was standing by my kitchen sink, scrolling through my phone, when I looked up and saw him in his window. No lights on. Just a silhouette watching my house. I laughed it off at first. Maybe he couldn't sleep. Maybe he was just passing by the window. But the next night, he was there again. And the next. Each time, standing perfectly still. 3 days later, I came home from work to find my front door slightly open. Not unlocked, open. The cold wind pushed through the gap, carrying that faint smell of soil and rust. I froze in the doorway, my heart pounding hard enough to make my vision pulse. I checked every room, every closet. Nothing was missing. But then, as I was locking up again, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. The footprints. Muddy, size 11, leading from my back door to the middle of the living room, and then stopping. No prints leading back out. Just there. Like someone had stood in the center of the room, staring around, and then vanished. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound felt amplified. The ticking of the clock. The groaning of the pipes, the wind brushing against the window pane. And across the street, through my blinds, that faint glow from Harlan's porch, light burned through the dark. He was out there again, watching. The next morning, I called the police. I told them someone might have broken in. 2 officers came by, polite but unconvinced. They checked the locks, the doors, the yard. One of them found the footprints but shrugged. Could be old. Rain's been making the ground soft, he said. Anyone around here you don't trust? My eyes drifted across the street. Harlan was sitting on his porch sipping coffee, staring directly at us. That guy, I said quietly. The officer followed my gaze. Him. He's been here 20 years. Never caused trouble. They left after 20 minutes, telling me to install a camera. That night I did. But when I checked the footage the next morning, I wished I hadn't. At 3:14 a.m., the motion alert triggered. I scrubbed through the feed, half expecting to see a raccoon. But what I saw froze me solid. A man, thin, standing in my driveway. He was facing my house, not moving. The camera's night vision showed his face pale and featureless under the infrared, until he looked up. It was Harlan. He stayed there for 6 minutes, not moving, not blinking. Then, slowly, he lifted something from his pocket. A small object glinted in his hand. He placed it by my front door, then walked back into the shadows. I didn't move for nearly 10 minutes. Just watched the replay again and again. When I finally opened my front door that morning, my hands shaking, I saw what he'd left: a single rusted key, tied with red string. I didn't touch it at first. I called the police again, showed them the footage. They promised to look into it. But when I came home later that day, the key was gone. No note. No sign anyone had been there. Just the faint smell of damp earth, like something had been dragged through the yard. That night, I left all my lights on. At 2:30 a.m., the doorbell rang. The sound was so sharp, so sudden, that I nearly dropped my phone. 3 short chimes. Then silence. I stood in the hallway, staring at the door. I couldn't bring myself to move. Then, the doorbell again. When I finally opened it, no one was there, but lying on the mat was an envelope. Inside, a Polaroid, a photo of me, asleep. I called 911. Again. They sent an officer who did a quick sweep and said there was no immediate threat. They recommended I stay with a friend or family for a few days. I didn't have family nearby, and I wasn't about to abandon my house. But I did start to notice things, tiny things, changing around me. The smell of my shampoo was different. My toothbrush was wet when I hadn't used it yet. My cat Bella refused to go near the basement door and hissed at it for hours. And every night the same time, the same feeling. Someone watching from across the street. 3 nights later, there was a knock. Not the doorbell this time. A knock. Slow, deliberate. I froze again. I could see a shadow through the frosted glass. I said no answer. The shadow shifted, moving closer. I could hear breathing. I grabbed the bat from behind the door and yanked it open. Harlan stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes glassy and distant. "Evening," he said softly. "Everything all right?" I didn't know what to say. You've been coming to my house," I stammered. He smiled faintly. "You shouldn't leave your door unlocked." My throat closed. "What are you talking about?" He leaned forward slightly. "You don't remember." And then he turned around and walked back to his porch. I stood there for a long time, the cold air biting my skin, until he disappeared into his house. That night, I pushed a chair under the door handle and sat with the bat in my lap until dawn. Every few minutes, I swore I heard footsteps in the hallway. Faint, soft, pacing. At one point, I thought I heard someone whisper my name. I told myself I was losing it. Lack of sleep, stress. But then came the scratching, from the walls. Slow and steady, like fingernails on wood. I pressed my ear against the plaster. The sound stopped. When I turned around, I saw something that made my heart stop. The basement door was open. I don't remember deciding to go down there. I just knew I had to. Each step creaked like a scream in the silence. The air smelled of mold and something else, something metallic. Halfway down, I heard it, breathing. "Hello," I whispered. Something shifted in the dark. The faint beam of my phone's flashlight caught a shape. A chair, a table, a camera tripod. And in the corner, a sleeping bag. Empty. But next to it, on the dirt floor, lay the rusted key and a stack of Polaroids. Dozens of them. All of me, sleeping, watching TV. Some taken from inside my house. Some from just inches away. I ran upstairs, slammed the basement door, and called the police. When they arrived, they found more. A small hidden camera inside my vent. Wires running through the crawlspace. A hole in the fence connecting my property to his. They went to Harlan's house. He didn't answer. When they broke in, they found the place filled with notebooks. Hundreds of pages of writing, diagrams of my house, my schedule. Lists of everything I'd ever thrown away. The officers said the basement door in his house had been nailed shut. Inside that locked basement, they found something worse. A narrow tunnel, dug through the dirt, leading straight to my foundation. Harlan was arrested, charged with trespassing, stalking, and a dozen other crimes. He didn't resist. He didn't say a word. When they asked him why, all he said was, "She kept leaving the door unlocked." I sold the house a month later. I moved to a new city, a new street, a new life. I changed my number, my job, everything. But the fear didn't go away. Every time I hear a floorboard creak, I freeze. Every time I pass a window, I close the blinds. And some nights, when I wake up suddenly in the dark, I swear I can still hear it. That faint, rhythmic scratching from the walls. Last night my phone buzzed, no number. Just, unknown. Attached, a photo. My new house, my bedroom window, taken from the yard. The message said, "You shouldn't leave your door unlocked." The police traced the message to a prepaid phone that was turned off minutes after sending. Harlan is still in a psychiatric facility, hundreds of miles away. Or so they say. But this morning, when I stepped outside, I saw something on my doormat. A small rusted key, tied with red string. And across the street, through the fog, a porch light flickered. Once. Then twice. And I swear, in that split second before it went out, I saw him standing there again. Watching.